everyone. This is Prashha Dutra, and welcome to the Prashha Dutra Show. I am so excited about today's podcast because I have Diana Chen on this show, someone I look up to. I got to meet her on LinkedIn, and she's been nothing but kind to me for the last 2 years. We've developed a friendship, and we've actually met, and everything Diana does is so powerful. It's almost like she has the Midas touch when it comes to networking and helping business owners, helping women who want to grow in their careers, and she's just such a ray of sunshine. I'm so excited that you guys will get to see her today, and I want to read a little bit about her because she's done some amazing things. It's hard to compress everything in one introduction, but I'll try. So one of the things I love about Diana is her effortlessness when it comes to networking, but also her effortlessness when it comes to marketing herself and her brand. And it's so amazing. So let's meet Diana, the secret weapon behind thousands of career and business transformations. As a globally recognized career coach and business growth strategist, she's mastered the art of turning talented professionals into in-demand experts and ambitious coaches into successful business owners. With over 60,000 learners as a LinkedIn learning instructor and regular speaking engagements at the United Nations and Fortune 500 companies, Diana isn't just sharing advice, she's reshaping how professionals approach personal branding and business growth. Her clients consistently land top jobs and scale to 20K plus month revenue, going up to $650,000 in annual revenue, and launch sold out programs. She is what I like to call the connector of connectors, which is this woman knows so many people that if you know her, instantly your network will grow. In fact, my network has grown like 10x just by knowing her. And that's the power of Diana Chan. So let's chat more with her and see how you guys can do exactly that. Hi, Diana, how are you?
Hello. Thank you so much for having me, Prashha. I'm so delighted to be here. Thank you so much for the lovely intro. I am so touched.
You're so welcome because it's just everything you do is so amazing, and you've pivoted also a few times in your journey. So take us back to where it all began, where you were feeling invisible, where life wasn't what we see it to be today for you.
Yeah, I grew up back and forth in Hong Kong and Canada growing up. And I always felt like I didn't belong. I didn't fit in. I struggled to find my voice. I was told to not rock the boat growing up. And even when I moved here, immigrated when I was 5, I was told to move back home. And then when I moved back to Hong Kong when I was 10, I was told that I didn't belong there, even though my skin color looked the same, but they just felt like I was different. And then it wasn't really until 16-year-old when my parents sent me back to Canada all by myself, I had to really figure out how to stand out, how to get noticed, how to navigate this world of transition being in a country by myself. And so throughout those years, I had my own business. I started as a math tutor. I volunteered thousands of hours. And that's how I really went from being shy and visible to putting myself out there to give back to this community. So, when you talked about how I'm the connector of connectors, when I was in university, I volunteered over 1,000 hours. And one of the things that my parents taught me was that treat your network like family, like moving to a new country by yourself. I started with a zero network. And every job that I had in my corporate days was all because I put myself out there, talked to people, got a foot in the door.
Mm, yeah, I think that's so important, and people keep ignoring that element because of the shyness. So how did you overcome that shyness? Where did the courage come from? As even because you were little, right? You were still in school and college. How do you overcome that? The barriers that come with like being quiet or being different.
Yeah. So going through business school, half of my grades were speaking up. And I had the softest voice in class. My classmate would speak up on my behalf, or like, this is what Diana said. This is what she's trying to tell you guys.
Wow.
And that hurt. That hurt to know, like, okay, my voice is soft. And I had to really work on my voice because I knew I want to do motivational speaking. One day I want to empower people, motivate people. And so for me, a big part was practicing, joining Toastmasters, volunteered to speak as a trainer, as a speaker. I volunteered as an orientation leader. And so I really had to learn to push myself out of my comfort zone, even though I struggle with English not being my first language. I had to just put myself out there, and sometimes people would make fun of me or tell me that I'm gullible because I didn't understand certain words. And so a lot of it was stepping out of my comfort zone. And over the years, the last decade, what I would say, how I really got overcome it was learning to love myself more. When you start loving yourself and when you start owning your value, meaning recognizing that you are enough, that you bring immense expertise and value to the table, you start showing up differently. And so in this past decade, the last 10 years, I would say is because I start building my brand on LinkedIn, starting my own live stream show, speaking at the UN. All that helped me build my confidence, even when it felt uncomfortable.
Oh, that's amazing because I think that one, volunteering is a very powerful tool. I think people don't use it as much. I think that's kind of what I did back in college, and I did so much more than just sitting in the class and just going through the, coursework. In fact, sometimes I had to do the coursework because I was like, wait, well, I forgot what's important. But I think a lot of people, especially women, feel like they're just there to do the work, and if they just do their work, everything else will fall in place. And that's, I feel like that's such a big lie that was fed to us, that you
Yeah.
don't need to get out of your comfort zone. In fact, you just need to keep trying to excel and impress other people. And I think that rewriting of that belief system is so key to like any transformation, any change. So what were some of the tools you used as you embarked on that self-love journey, and also rewriting your limiting beliefs?
Yeah. So something that I guide my clients through, this is the whole confidence building process. Because one thing I notice being whether career coach, business coach is oftentimes people have a hard time identifying their value and worth. And so a big part of my work has been helping people distinguish what makes them unique and different. And so one of the first steps, as I always talk about, is identifying your value. What are you proud of? What do people say about you? List of all your track record of success. Identify that, write that out. The first step is writing it out. Now, what I notice is that when people just writing out, they may not believing in it yet, right? They can just write it out, but like, I don't think I really believe in this yet. And so the next step is really just working on your mindset, your belief system of acknowledging yourself, the positive affirmations that I am smart, I am proud, I am enough, I am confident, I am powerful. I even have these positive affirmations in front of me. I have one that says there, I show up for myself in the world, I share my light with the world. So having these affirmation tricks your brain to believing in yourself more. So that's the second step is the belief. That's a big piece there. And then the third step is voicing your value, communicating your value. So this is where you start speaking up. So you can try that whether it's in meetings or when you're going on a podcast interview, for example, or a presentation, start sharing your own wins. And a lot of times people tell me that, Diana, I feel like what's the word? I'm boasting, or that I'm being too, what's the word? Bragging. And so the way I like to think about it is really shifting that perspective of thinking of how you're being a service. So instead of thinking that you're selling yourself, you are actually serving others. By not sharing this, you are being disservice to others.
Mm, yeah, yeah. I think this is what I like to call ethical leadership too, where it's like if you don't speak up in a meeting, and if something wrong happens with the product, or if the company doesn't make any money, then you kind of just, what, that's exactly what you're there for. And so voicing your opinion is not even a matter of choice, it's your duty and responsibility, right?
Your responsibility. Yeah, that's a great way of thinking of it. And it ties into having that higher standard of excellence.
Mm,
And when I think about the work that we put out there is having that own standard of excellence so that you continuously raise the bar to get better and better.
yeah, definitely. And I think that's the thing, like people, like I think where people get stuck is like the practice of it all. Like you said, you've done 1,000 hours of volunteer service, and you've put yourself out there in so many situations that were uncomfortable. But I think someone would try it, but then because it feels icky, they just stop, and they just never make it a practice. And it's the same thing with the language that you were talking about, right? Like, how do you communicate with yourself? What are the words you use for yourself? And what is going on in your brain, like daily? Like, what are the narratives that you're sort of fueling, because they are going to shape the rest of your life as well. And if you can't change that like the track that's playing,
Yeah.
then the actions also feel so much harder. So tell us, how did all of that lead to you coming into the world of business? Where was the pivot from your professional life to to from your corporate life into your business life? Like, where did this
Yeah.
whole shift happen?
So I worked in corporate for 7 years. Let me think. Yeah,
Mm.
7 years before I started my business in 2011. So now I've been in business for 14 years now. Just celebrated just last month. And so how I started my business was, for me, I would say I navigated through different roles in in marketing, in communications, in training. And I was always moving into different roles, but I was always involved with helping people. Meaning I was always asked to train people, coach people, mentor people, help people prepare for interviews. And I was always searching for a deeper meaning and fulfillment. So early in my career, in my 20s, I was already looking for greater purpose and meaning. And I knew that I wanted something more. And at first I thought, oh, I'll just go do my MBA. Maybe I'll figure that out, go do my MBA and go into consulting. And I thought I found my dream job going into talent management consulting, but then I realized like something was missing. And so it was really at that moment when I realized that I want to do work that's related more to helping people by empowering them to own their greatness with confidence to shine and thrive. So that was a pivotal moment in my career where I was working crazy hours of consulting hours, 90-hour work weeks, and I was not fulfilled. And it was just like, this can't be it. This can't be my life. Right. So that was the turning point. And when I realized that, then I pivoted again in my career and moved into something closer to what I thought would align, which is what recruitment, recruiting for MBA executive, MBA professionals. And I was like, okay, that's aligned closer because I'm talking to people, but I knew it wasn't my future like dream job there. I just knew it was like the
Mm.
stepping stone.
Mm.
And what was interesting was a year and a half later, I got laid off. And so that was another turning point for me where I was like, okay, this must be a sign. I knew I want to do something on my own. I was waiting for the perfect moment until I was ready. And when I got laid off, I was like, do I go find another job or do I go start my business? So I decided to bet on myself. And within the month of starting my business, I got referred, to talk about networking here, referred by a classmate to work at Google Canada as their first and only recruiter here in Canada. And I decided to take that leap for a year. It was just a 1 year contract. And little did I know that 1 year opportunity was the launch pad for my business. That was the launch pad because I was talking to thousands and thousands of people through LinkedIn, on the phone, in person type of events. I was getting invited to different talks that year, like at least 50 talks. And that was the testing ground of how my business launched, was through that. And so after the 1 year, I was like, I'm going to go all into this. And I did my TEDx circuit, I call, through universities, of giving my signature talk on how to differentiate as top talent to get hired into top companies.
That's
So
so
that was
amazing.
that big turning point. And then fast forward to now, like having coached thousands of people now with at least 8,000 hours of one-on-one coaching. 2020, yeah, the pandemic, I knew something was off. I wanted to pivot, but then I just waited because of everything that was happening. So in 2022, that was when I decided, okay, it's time now. I'm going to want to pivot to something else because I was, again, looking for more fulfillment, alignment,
Mm.
and a bigger challenge. That was what I was looking for. I was searching for that next challenge, that raising the bar again. And because of my relationships with coaches, I just met so many people online during the 2020 era that everyone was, a lot of them were like, Diane, I want to talk to you. How are you doing this? How are you getting featured on LinkedIn? How are you getting the becoming a LinkedIn learning instructor? So I was always giving. I was always just giving advice and sharing, this is what you can do. This is how you can get noticed. And through that, when I decided to launch my very first mastermind, I was able to fill it really quickly because I had a group of people who already believed in me, trusted me already.
Mm.
And so last year, I decided to make this huge pivot of going all into business coaching, where I now focus on helping coaches to scale their businesses to 5, 6 figure months. And it's been so fun and fulfilling now because it's closer to what I'm working on now. Like I can really relate and help people design the business that aligns with their life.
Yeah, I love that. What a great story, right? And I think what intentional pivots that you've made, and I think what you said about like getting laid off and using it as an opportunity and staying open to what might come out of this. I think in this season of layoffs, which I guess I don't know if they'll ever stop in our lifetimes, right? Like there'll always be layoffs, but like the wave of layoffs that comes and goes freaks everyone out. You know, somebody was just messaging me, the Meta laid off people, and I'm like, Yeah, I think it's gonna be okay. I mean, you can't panic, you can't freak out because of that. But I think a lot of people don't have the attitude, the right attitude to deal with things not going their way. And going back to the first point where you said like loving yourself and allowing yourself to have the right mindset on how to tackle the challenges. I feel like a lot of us are just not equipped with the right approach or right attitude. How can professionals today build that resilience or build that attitude when it seems like the whole industry, at least the tech industry, is going wild? Like there's no way to know who's next, what's next. What are your tips for people going through that situation you were going through so many years
Yeah,
ago?
this is such a great question. I would love to dive deeper on this. So I think
Mm,
I mean, if I have to flip this and think about it, is how do I future proof my career in
mm,
business? That's really a way to look at it, is how do I future proof my career in business based on what's happening in the economy? I think that's a very important thing to keep in mind. And so I think what's really, really important is it is paying attention to that. And what I would recommend doubling down on, like there's a couple of things I recommend doubling down on. Three is number one is double down on building your personal brand
mm,
online and at work. So this means building your brand, your reputation, what you're known for, showcasing your expertise, be known. Okay, so that you are top of mind. So that's number one. Number two, that ties into what I really believe in is double down on networking, relationship building, professional relationship building. And what I mean by that is don't wait until you need to ask for a favor for someone to help you to go start networking. Start doing it now, making a daily habit to make deposits into your network. This is something I've really doubled down on over the years. Is it's no longer just, oh, I'm doing this just for an opportunity. It's I genuinely want to help other people add value. Start treating it like having a relationship bank account. Start making the deposits. Check in, add value, pay it forward, share useful articles and advice, and guarantee it's going to come back. Something I do is I call it the Pay It Forward Friday. So every Friday, I think of who can I make an introduction to? Who can I just like help? And just by doing that, like you're seen as this person, like, oh, Diane just thought of me. And so you start doing that, opportunities are going to come there. So that's number two. Number three, I would say is that ties into all of this is building this presence, like having like a LinkedIn presence, for example, like building that audience, showcasing that expertise even more, because this ties into the whole visibility game, visibility, credibility, credibility, which ties into marketability, being in demand as well. And so I believe now it's so important to share and own your voice now. So if we're having this fear that I don't want to be seen, I don't want to be heard, I think a big part is we got to work on what are those limiting beliefs that we have about being seen. That's a big
yeah.
piece, I think. There's a lot of, like, blocks that we may have, and I had a lot of this too, like, I had to work
Mm,
through this, and so those are the things I would recommend doubling down on now.
mm,
Another thing I would add to be great, like, for anyone who's either whether it's starting your own business or finding a job, is you gotta be amazing at what you do.
mm,
You gotta master the skill of what you're trying to sell. Whether you are the coach, the speaker, a product manager, like be so good at what you do. So invest in continuous learning improvement,
mm,
courses, programs, masterminds, whatever that is, because that's how you continue to elevate your market value, meaning your
mm.
potential to earn more
Yeah. I
and
think people are
deliver
skipping
results.
all. Yeah, I think people are skipping all the steps that you just shared. I think everyone wants everything just because they have a degree or just because of you know, the the work they've done, number of years on their resume. And there's a lot of, and I can understand where that comes from, but I feel like a lot of times there's a lot of entitlement that I should just get everything, and why am I not getting it? But the truth is, world is a very cutthroat place, and it's very competitive. And like you said, like there's no replacement for results. There's no replacement for performance, no matter what. But if you just perform and don't have the other elements, then that performance is not valuable. So all the elements have to come together, not only you being the best product, but then you having the right marketing, which is exactly how the business world works, anyways. Maya said this on one of the podcasts, which has resonated with me, which is similar to what you're saying, is like treat yourself as a business and constantly invest in that business, constantly grow it, and do all the elements that you would do in the business, the sales, the marketing, the branding, the product also has to be good. Like all the elements are important, and I think you gave a great framework that anybody
Yeah.
can start using.
Yeah. Can I share an example? I think this will hit home.
Please.
I think it would be a good example to help reverse engineer and thinking of getting clear on the goal or destination of what you're trying to go after or build. and reverse back to what are the things I can start doing now that will lead me to that. So, for example, for many, many years, I knew I wanted to speak on bigger stages or speak in front of larger audiences. That was something I've always had in mind since university. And I had to work on this soft voice thing, but over the last several years, I knew I want to speak like at the UN or speak on bigger stages and or like Fortune 500 companies and become a LinkedIn learning instructor. And I knew that's not just going to happen overnight. So what did I do? What I did was, okay, well, I need to get better at speaking. And so in order to get better at speaking, I don't just wait for people come hire me for a speaker. I started my live stream show in 2020, in December 2020, where I ran my first summit, invited 20 coaches that I'd interview. I did 12 hours live stream, 2 days, just to start. I was uncomfortable, super uncomfortable. And I was like, I'm just going to do it. And then I got hooked. And then since then, every single month, I was running 1 to 2 live stream shows every month. And I would watch myself of how I deliver my talk and how I could improve my delivery, the pace, the whatever. I was always looking for ways to improve. And then, so you just keep getting better. And then I was like, well, I want to get better with video content. So I started shooting short form video content because I was doing a lot of long form, which is very different. Uncomfortable for me to do short form content, to be concise to the point. That was what helped me get my first LinkedIn Learning Nano course, to creating short form video content and also speaking for the UN. And so the story here where I'm sharing this is that there are a lot of things behind the scenes that I had to do to get to the current where people see like, oh, how did you become 11-time LinkedIn Learning instructor? Was it luck? I think there's a lot more to that. Like there was so much effort put into it, how I even pitched 50 courses to get to the 10, 11 courses approved, to getting really good at the craft of speaking in under 1 minute videos.
Yeah, there's a lot of work that goes, but I think what separates you, Diana, from a lot of people is just the depth of clarity and the depth of intention. Like how you started this conversation also with that fact that you just want to help people. And I think that that is such a genuine drive for you that it shines in your networking, it shines in your work, and it shines in your effort as well. And I think that's the key, right? Like matching that intention with the action. If you just keep doing action, it's not going to work. If you just sit and meditate and want things to come to you, that's also not going to work. But I think that combination of how intentional you are in everything is a nonverbal communication, right? So the warmth
Mhm.
you have for people, the way you speak, the way you connect with even random strangers like me on LinkedIn is commendable. And I think that comes from that clarity that you have in your life's purpose of just helping more people in the best way possible. And I think that gives you the fuel to sort of do more, like pitch 50, send 50 pitches to LinkedIn, or connect with people on Fridays and like keep up with this entire huge network of people you have across the world. It's amazing.
Thank
And
you.
yeah, and I think
Thank
it's fueled
you.
by that intention.
Interesting that observation. I'm very so one thing that what popped up for me when you said that is the self-awareness.
Mm,
Self-awareness of who you are, what's important to you, what do you really care about? And then as you put yourself out there, like what's the legacy you want to leave behind? What do you want to be known for? And from there, that would drive the type of behaviors and actions. And so for me this year, I'm very intentional this year. Like I have my word of the year, which is invite.
mm,
And what I mean by invite is inviting people that I want to spend more time to get to know into my community, into my events, but also inviting more abundance and possibilities, inviting like new experiences. And so how I've doubled down on that is like even like the last several months, like I've hosted 2 in-person events,
mm,
inviting people to like my mastermind retreat days at the spa, or we just had a dim sum lunch with entrepreneurs, a roundtable, and they were all filled really quickly. And it was never about just promoting it, but it was intentional with who do I want to bring together and why I want to bring them together to fill those. And so I love what you said, the open, how you introduced me is my friend told me, who's a human design expert, she said that Diana, that my human design is really designed to bring amazing people together to create magic and transformation
yeah,
by bringing the right people in the right room.
yeah. I think you do that really well. I love it. This podcast would not be possible if you look at the last 10 guests. They are all people I connected because of you.
Oh,
So
thank you so much. It's a full circle moment that I'm now finally here, right?
yeah, it's a testament to not only to the fact that you know a lot of people, but your willingness to open that network to other people, and then also the way you sort of endorse everyone to each other. I think it just builds so much trust so fast that it it's what makes networking fun, and it's what makes connectors such valuable people, because connectors are not just people who know a bunch of people. Connectors are people who are themselves very uplifting, but they always speak highly of their connections. They're very good at like figuring
Yeah,
out like, who's good at what, and then sort of marketing them on,
yeah,
you're like that sponsor that everybody needs in their life,
yeah,
to
yeah.
sort of sponsor you
Well,
to
you know what's
people and
interesting? Yeah,
situations.
I want to make a comment about this because I think it's what we call, what's the word? Reciprocity.
Hmm.
It's important as well because even though you're acknowledging all the work of who I am, but I think what's been so amazing about you, Prasha, is I feel like over the years is that you've also been very generous with sharing. When I ask you questions, how you run your business, and I can feel that authenticity and genuine generosity as well. And so that also, as a result, like I want to also support you, right? It's that impact. The reason I bring those up is that it's so easy. Or the mistake I see people make is oftentimes to think like, oh, I can just reach out to people and ask them to come on my show or to help me with something. But if you have not built a trust, this is why I'm so big on trust building. If you not have built a trust, the reputation, the brand, it's really hard for people to say yes to helping you. So, as an example, like right now, I see in my LinkedIn DMs where the initial conversation, people may give me their phone number, ask me to help on a call, or pitch me right away. Like, those are things you don't want to do at first. You actually want to be naturally curious and genuinely interested in others by asking powerful questions to learn more about who they are, what their goals are, what their priorities are, what they care about. Start that conversation to build that trust factor. And then from there, add value like, oh, I should connect you to so and so. But the reason I would connect you to so and so is because I know I can put my name and brand that, like, I trust that you'll take care of that, like with care.
Mm,
That's the
yeah.
important piece. Like, I'm really selective who I also make introductions to. So, as an example, like one of our mutual friend, like Teresa White, who hosted the 12 Days of Career Goals,
Mm.
I pretty much introduced all of them, like of the speakers. But I would never do that if the person did not have that high standard of excellence or know that they will actually deliver because my reputation is on the line.
Yeah, definitely. I think you bring up so many great points that I was going to ask on anyways, but I love conversations over Q&A. But I think with networking, it all comes back to that self-love aspect that you touched on early on, and I think that connection sometimes is not established for people. And I think networking has such a bad reputation, in terms of that it's just about jobs, it's about referrals, it's about all these other things. But I think I got better at networking only when I found peace with myself, and I healed from all my, triggers and traumas and, you know, my limiting beliefs, where I could now feel full enough to sort of give to people and be secured in being rejected if it didn't work out. And I think that personal work reflects when we put ourselves out there in the world. And so I think the best networking advice would be really work on yourself, so that all these interactions you're doing with so many people and you're kind of opening yourself up to so many energies and so many triggers, you are ready to sort of work through them. And somebody was asking me this morning, they're like, 3 recruiters ghosted me. So I said, huh? What? Like, who cares? There are like 3 million of them.
Yeah, yeah,
but
such a good
but
point.
it's a sign of like your own insecurities, right, that get heightened in situations that are new, and unless you work through them, you'll always stay stuck at those 3 recruiters who ghosted you. You gotta grow up, and you gotta grow up emotionally and mentally and spiritually, and be at a place where you're comfortable enough saying, if Diana gets back to me, gets back to me. If she doesn't, it's okay. Like, it's not the end of the world. Like, we've been trying to make this happen for 2 years. It doesn't mean anything.
No,
Like, it'll
yeah,
get done. But it's not about me, it's not about you, it's just about like a project we want to collaborate on. And so the
yeah,
same thing with job search or anything you want in life. And I think another thing I would add is like, which probably you can elaborate on more as well, is like what shifted for me in networking was that I started to, as time went on, I'm like, oh my God, this person is now at this level and they weren't before. So I suddenly realized, I'm like, hold on, where would these people be in the next 10 years? Right? And would I want to be a part of their inner circle or at least know them? Or would I not want to be associated with them in 10 years? And I think that gives me the fuel to open up more and be like, it doesn't matter if I share 16 links with Anna, or it doesn't matter if I share a few workbooks with Richa. I'm just very interested in the fact that where would they be in 10 years? And there'll be so much more value I can add into their life then, and they can add into my life as well at that time. And I think that's what it gets me excited about transparency and generosity. Is like we can either focus on the little things that we are exchanging right now, or we can focus on the big picture of like, do we want to all build empires together, or do we want to like sit on an island protecting all this stuff that's already on the internet?
I'm with you on this. I love what you said, Pasha, because really the common thing I notice with networking, because it's one of my most popular talks I get invited to speak in corporations. People tend to overthink what will they think about me? The rejection, the judgment, the insecurities, they're first thinking about that first. As a result, by default, it's like, oh, networking doesn't work for me, or I don't like this. Like that's the most common thing. Like when I think about being a career coach as well, it's like, oh, I reached out to 10 people and no one responded. I'm like, that's not enough. Like you need to reach out to 100 people. Right? And the part of it also is, I think where you're getting is the art. This is back to the topic, the art of modern networking now
Mhm.
is it's not just a one-time thing. You really need to look at it as a bigger thing. So for example, like I have this part of ritual now for me. Every day I'll have my coffee and I'll look at, oh, who are the people I'm thinking about or that I need to get back to? And I'll either send a voice note, a text message, or some sort of resource. So I'm already doing it. I'm already doing this. Like I'm thinking of you. I'm sharing this because I think it's useful. And so it's already part of my day-to-day life that I'm not even thinking, okay, what are they going to do for me?
Mm-mm.
If you're having this mindset of, I'm going to do this so that in order to get that, that is the wrong mindset. People can
Yeah.
feel that. Okay. That's a very important piece I want to highlight. If that's the mentality, like, I'm going to do this so that they'll do this for me. So I think where we're getting at, and this is why it's so important, why it's like intentional networking, the modern art networking is getting really clear on like who are the people you really want to build. There's different levels of networking, right? Like who is your powerhouse circle? People who could be your power partners, referral partners, as an example, like how you and I could refer each other business or be on each other's shows. That we're constantly leveling up and winning, and that we're celebrating each other's wins. So if you don't have that, go find those people because we all need those people. Right. And that's what I've been doing the last 7 years is forming my own circles and masterminds. And it's so powerful because when you have that, you're all going to rise. Not just you, but you're all going to rise. That's the power. And when I think about how I've been quantum leaping the last several years in my business growth, is I continue to surround myself with amazing people. And they're going to challenge you to think bigger, much bigger than you thought possible. And you just continue to rise, and they're going to celebrate you together. They're not going to be jealous, but they're like, that's amazing.
Yeah. And there's something magical about being close to the right people. Just proximity, right? Tony Robbins says this, right? Proximity is the secret to success. If you're not near the people that are doing the things you want to do, then you are going the wrong direction, right? Like you are not surrounding yourself with the right group of people. And people are, the network is the key, not just to get you the opportunity, but like you said, to actually give you better ideas and better standards and better, you know, better energy. Just
Yeah.
that is the key to a network. I think we're all very myopic when it comes to networking. We think like you said, just like job and referrals, things like that. But do you want a higher quality of life? Do you have bigger dreams? Do you want to do something to change the world? Then you better start working on your networking, because running away from it is just, I just don't even know how you survive. Like
I agree.
I think you can survive in this world. And I think the interesting part, Diana, is that people still network. The only thing is, the difference is that they're networking in things that they're interested in. So, for example, moms hang out with moms all the time, right? Indian communities are really strong. Chinese communities are really strong. Like they're all doing something. They're going to the temple. They're going to the church. Everyone's networking all the time. We live in a social world. You're consuming content all the time, so you're still hooked into some sort of network and people based on your interests. The only thing is they're not being intentional about it, and they're not able to make the connection that how I treat my church friends is how I should treat people on LinkedIn. It's still me connecting the dots and meeting more people, and it's not very different than how you do it in your actual life. Like I was
Yeah.
telling someone, I'm like, if you go back to like Asian countries, at least in India, your mom knows everyone. My mom knows like every single person, their aunt and their uncles, and the network is huge. And and that's the same thing we're asking you to do in this digital world, with the same intention that I want to help you, and maybe one day you can help me, but if not, that's okay too. But I just want to know more people,
Yeah.
because that increases the richness and the value of my life and the quality of my life. And if I can surround myself with the right set of people, then of course I'm going to see the right set of results. And I think a lot of people forget that this is the
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
want to elaborate what you said because what's really interesting is you're right that we we're social creatures where we want to meet people, right? And I think about even for me, like I have a big network, and I have like when you said that I have like the mommy groups, I have like my MBA friends, I have all these groups over the years, and I think what's really important is to think about what season you're in your life and career right now, and what's the network you want to build that you want to double down and nurture. And so that's what we talk about, intentional networking. And so like I always make time for like friends, people I've known for a long time. At the same time, I know I also want my group of friends who are in business that I can talk about business, because the conversations are different. Right? Not just saying that one is better, it's just a different type of conversation that you have. And so for me, what I've noticed is when I started even investing into going to like my Paris retreats or hosting my own, I noticed the conversations were different. It wasn't just about the kids. It wasn't just about vacations. It was so much more than that of how are you building this? How are you growing this? And so if you are craving for a certain type of network of people having certain conversations, start intentional of the type of network you want to build and leverage like an online tool like LinkedIn to be like, hey, where I'm going to find these people and start meeting them. I feel like that's how my network really grew the last several years, was growing from a very local network to a more North America to now more global network, was actually leveraging LinkedIn to build that. And then now I'm going back to also like nurturing my local network through events, meeting other fellow coaches.
That's so amazing. I love it. If someone's hesitant to join masterminds or invest in themselves, I think we've given them enough fuel to like not be hesitant. But if someone's still like, okay, yes, Prash and Diana, it's easy for you to say you guys have businesses and da da da. How do I make the money? How do I find the resources to actually prioritize it? And not only money, but also time. So, what would be your advice to busy moms and people with less resources on where they can start with their networking efforts?
Yeah, it doesn't, I mean, start with where you're at, right? But I think one of the important thing is getting clear is, are you willing to invest in yourself? I really believe investing in yourself is one of the best investments in terms of return on investment. I really believe that. Like every time I invest in myself, I've always have some sort of 2, 3x growth. So I think we need to first even recognize that. Am I worth it? Do I deserve this? That's a really, really big piece. Like, when I think about this big trip I went to Paris 3 years in a row for a mastermind, I remember a lot of them said it's my first time investing on a trip for myself or investing in splurging on something. So I think even the first part is acknowledging that you deserve this, that you're worth it. Because if you don't, you're never going to do it. Okay, so that's number one. And then number two is go find what is, I don't know, get clear on what is it that you want. What type of investment are you looking for at this season stage in your life? Right. So for me right now, if it's like business growth, but for some, it's like I just need to get clarity. I just need a group of people who can help me figure this out. Get clear on that and tell people this is what you're looking for. And if you don't find it, go form your own group. Go form your own mastermind group. Other. Right. But guaranteed by just even getting intentional and telling people about it, they may know someone else who may know someone. So as an example, like right now, I'm now meeting fellow business coaches who are helping people, let's say, earlier in the stage of launching a business or pivoting from corporate to entrepreneurship. Whereas I would work with people who have already a business and looking to scale. And so now I'm partnering with these other business coaches where we can refer each other business. And so get clear on that, on how you can help each other out and form that network.
Definitely. I think it's
Right.
really important that you prioritize, back to where we started, clarity on what you really want, working on your own mindset and attitude. And then from there, having more clarity as to what you want in the future and being intentional about surrounding yourself with the right people. And the time and money trade off is just a part of the game. And I think a lot of people are just complicating it. I mean, you
Yeah.
still have time to do all the things that you want to do. If you're not finding the time to do this, then you just, again, you're not being intentional. You don't know the value of it. Um, because it's like, the only stock I invest in is me. There are no
Absolutely.
other stocks.
Right. Right. One thing my husband is a very analytical person. One thing he challenged, because I love investing, buying things and courses. And one thing he always challenged me, whatever you invest in, like just make the money back from it.
Mhm.
So before you invest in another thing, go apply what you learned, make that 10, 20K back from it, then go do it again.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, so I'm being responsible with my spending as well. Like I'm applying it and learning it. So that would be the practical life for those who are asking about that. But I think the other thing I want to talk about, the benefit of this,
Mm.
is being part of, whether it's a group program, community, or a mastermind. What I have seen is you are part of something where you walk away believing in bigger, like what's possible for you. That's what I see. Like what a lot of people tell me when they're part of my community groups is they walk away feeling, wow, like I can achieve a six-figure business. I can do this seven-figure business or six-figure launch or sold out program. It's like walking away. It's like so and so is doing it, therefore I can too.
Yeah.
That's the power. And that's what really a ripple effect impact that you're going to have.
Yeah. Yeah. That was the key to my podcast. When I started in 2017, my seventh episode was with a TEDx speaker. And before that, TEDx was a big thing. And she humanized it like instantly. And I remember as the podcast ended, I asked her, how do you get a podcast? How did you get a TEDx? And she was so generous and told me all about it. And still took me 3 years. But after that, I interviewed so many TEDx people that even if I didn't do anything, Diana, I would have gotten a TEDx. Just because of how many people I was meeting and how real it was in my head that it's not a big deal. Like everyone I know has a TEDx. And when I gave a TEDx, everyone else was like, "Oh my God, big deal! It's so big, it's so huge." And I'm like, "Actually, no. Like I know people who've done bigger things, and so I must keep going." So it's like what you're saying is like the relatable role models concept, right? Like it
Yeah.
humanizes some of those really big things and makes it possible for your brain to like visualize it for yourself. I think
Uh,
the other thing is just meeting you and your friends has been like just the presence is so strong, right? Like to be in a room full of very confident women is exactly the energy we need in 2025.
Totally, totally. You got to get intentional with that, right? This is something you got to be really intentional. And I think something that's really interesting, I've noticed quite a few people reached out to me recently and of feeling either intimidated to reach out to me because they feel like they put me on a pedestal.
Hmm.
And I tell people like, and I think this is why I'm now intentionally doing events, is like, I'm just a human being, like just like you. I'm no less like better or anything. Like, you can definitely come talk to me. And so I want to encourage people, if there are people that you admire, that you want to get to know, people that you've been, I don't know, following for quite some time, like send them that message, send them that hello, let them know what you love about their work. Start that conversation through the DM, add value, pay it forward. Guarantee you're going to get notice.
Yeah, yeah. And you're really famous, Diana.
No, I'm not famous. I'm not famous, but I think I have the reputation in the community. Can I share a quick story? This is actually a funny story. I should
Please.
talk about
Yeah.
this circle here. Um, about people know me in the career coaching industry, particularly. But when I hosted my mastermind last year, I remember one of them, our fellow coach, Kendall, who you know, Kendall Berg, who is amazing. She has a podcast, by the way, as well. And she was, I guess, as she was meeting people, she was asking for speakers, like referrals.
Mm.
And a lot of them were saying, like, do you know Diana YK Chan? So she said she's heard my name so many times through other people. And so that was like the joke of the week of being the Diana YK Chan circle there. But I just thought that was really fascinating. And for me now, it's like, how do I bring these great people together to all level up at the end of the day?
Yeah.
Like I'm celebrating everyone that's in my circle. That I like. I'm so proud of you, Prasha, of what you've built
Oh, thank you.
in your business, what you're doing with your podcast show, the people that you serve, and how you're constantly raising the bar. I love it.
Thank you so much. Just following your footsteps. Marie says they can't hear me. Oh God, I told you, right? These audio issues will be the end of me. You can hear me though, right, Diane?
Yeah, no problem. Yeah.
Okay, I think it'll be fine. I think it's the internet and live streaming, and I don't know. I don't know what's happening. I'm so sorry, Marie. The podcast will be on YouTube by Sunday, so hopefully we can get the audio fixed there. But yeah, such a great chat. I just feel like I'm sitting right next to you and having a drink. But I love that. So now, just some tactical advice for people who are not networking or who are not putting themselves out there. What is step one to sort of organizing this activity? Do you recommend, you know, having spreadsheets to remember? Because yeah, that's one thing I know about connectors is like even me, I have a good memory, so I remember who to catch up on and who to sort of follow up on. But I don't think everybody has that kind of a memory, and I think that's where like a lot of the connections fall off. So some tactical advice on number one, how to get started. Should they get really tactical about it, or would you recommend like a natural flow? And then how do they keep up with all the contacts they're making, and what's your strategy around that?
Yeah, great question. I get asked this a lot. So I think first step is I would say even just optimize your profile on LinkedIn. Like have
Mm,
a like first make sure you look great in terms of optimization of how you want to represent yourself. That's number one step. Optimization of that. I think that's number one. Number two is I would like really get clear on what type of network you're trying to build. Get really intentional. Like what's the goal here? Who do you want to meet? What type of industry? List that all out because that's going to then help you get intentional with networking. And so from there, I always like to start with warm networking, meaning tap into my own network. Who are the people I already know? Who are
mm,
my friends, my colleagues, people from church, whatever? Like list them all out and then add them to LinkedIn, start talking to them. Like I would just start there because I was like,
mm,
the baby step, get your feet wet first. Okay. Don't try to go reach out to a CEO of a company that you don't know. Start warm, okay, and get comfortable and start getting curious of asking questions. Okay, that's how I would get started. And then the other thing is I always like to put together like a quarterly list like of people that I want to double down on the relationships I want to build. And so you have this 90-day cycle of how you want to build relationships. So I have that list that I like to go through and then determine the frequency, the cadence on like a weekly basis, monthly basis of how you want to stay in touch with people. So for me, it's a combination of text messaging, voice messaging, Loom videos, sharing articles. I have my own community as well. And so just getting clear, like how your method of staying in touch with people. And the other things to think about is like, what are these like bigger events that you want to be part of? Like getting intentional, like where do you want to show up? Some of those big events, or what are the events that you want to host? So I like to think of like that from a planning perspective, so that I actually have a calendar of events this year. Like this year, because I have a team helping out, I've mapped out every single month the type of events that I want to host, just because there's more logistics
yeah.
with planning. It's not just a virtual show, but there's a lot more logistical planning involved. So I just put it into the calendar, so it's blocked, and then I start telling people I invite people to it as well. Okay. And then the important piece is once you meet people, you want to have a follow-up system. Most people do not follow up.
Mhm.
So following up within 24, 40 hours after a meeting, an event, a conversation, I think it's great etiquette to stay in touch that way. And then check in every 3, 6 months. Like there's going to be some people you're not going to necessarily talk on a monthly basis, and that's totally okay. It's nothing got to do with you. It's just life.
Mm,
Right.
yeah.
But start making those deposits because once you start making those deposits, when it comes to something that you need out of a favor, something, they're more likely to say yes because you've been nurturing and staying in touch with your network.
Oh, definitely. I think the reason I was smiling when you said the list is like I think every single person I've asked about networking has said they have a list of top 100 people. I have a client whose husband is a partner at BCG, and she said he's had a list of 100 people forever. I mean, you don't get to those big positions without having a network and without having like an intentional list of like the top people you want to constantly be in touch with, because people keep missing birthdays and events and new year's and all the things that need to be like done. And I think that's the key to like really growing your career, is to have that list. I think that power list is exceptionally important.
I like it.
All
Powerless.
businesses, yeah, all businesses have lead sheets, and all businesses know like their top clients and everything, and so we should have that too. And that one act can be so so powerful, because you're not depending on a memory anymore, you're not depending on like just remembering someone anymore. And I think the last thing you said about like some people will not get back to you, the I used to get really upset about that when I first started putting myself out there, even with my podcast. But what I learned was, I just need to find the right people. I don't need to find everyone, I don't need to connect with everyone, just the ones that resonate with my message and my energy. And I don't want to like force somebody to be friends with me or to talk to me or to be in my network. I just need to keep like staying that intentional to connect with the right ones. And I think if you're secure enough to think that the right ones will be, will get your message and will connect with you, then that's all you need.
Yeah, yeah. I just want to emphasize some things. You talked about the powerless, power partners. I think that is so, so important. What ties into this is personal branding.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you don't have a great reputation, it's really hard for people to refer opportunities. You are 5 times more likely to get hired through referral opportunities, but also because of your brand and reputation. So that's something I want to remind people to really double down on, like having both is important. So I'll give you a quick example. Is this made me realize the importance of your brand and reputation and online branding. Was last year, I had someone who came to me, an executive who came to me to hire me, wanted to do interview coaching, and was referred to me by a client from 10 years ago. And she's been following me on Instagram for a decade. And she referred me to this person who worked with me. And it was a huge engagement that we worked on for a CEO job. And it made me realize the importance of your reputation, your brand, but also your standard of excellence, of the work that you put yourself out there, of showcasing the value that you bring, was what led to the close quickly and easy, because there was the trust that built. I think this ties back to everything I'm talking about now, is you need to have that trust build in order for people to want to work with you or help you or hire you. Oh, here.
Sorry, I said personal branding is not an option anymore. I think everyone who's running around in circles like avoiding it, you're already so far behind. I started in 17 and I think it was late. So if you're in 2025, you're definitely late. It's a key asset to build. It's a key, it's a key strategy to grow, and it it supersedes you because it's your reputation, right? So
Yeah.
and it actually, it's just like compound interest. It starts paying off later. So like
Yeah.
when I first started, nothing would happen 1 year, 2 year, 3 year. Now people are like, you've been doing it for 7, and like how you've been doing it for 14. Like it's like it just keeps growing,
Yeah.
and then you start to see those massive returns in terms of like the value you can add to people's life, but also the value they can add to your life. Like like you mentioned about a very big deal being closed like that. So there's just so much value in like consistency, and that's kind of what personal branding really is.
Yeah.
And we'll do another episode with Diana on personal branding, because she's so powerful at doing that.
This was so fun. Thank you so much for having me today, Prasha.
So welcome. Yeah, no, I have just one more question,
Yeah.
and no, two more questions. So number one, if somebody wants to work with you, Diana, where can they find you? How can they get involved at different stages of their career or wherever they are in their journey? How can they get more involved with everything that you're doing?
Absolutely. So if you're looking to learn more about how to build like your network and brand, I have some free training on LinkedIn Learning, free courses that I recommend taking. There's 11 courses on that. If you're looking to grow and scale your business, connect with me on LinkedIn, and I would love to chat with you further. What I specialize now is really on helping people how to differentiate your brand, but also how to have great sales conversations that will lead to better conversion and increased sales there. So that's something what I love doing now, which is all about relationship building. And then how do you really add more value, make deposits into people's accounts there. And so that's been so fun for me. And the other thing is, like, if for there are fellow coaches here, I am building my community this year where I have a coaches in business community where you can also join for free as well. And every month where I host a coaches in business real talk conversations where we talk about the highs and lows of entrepreneurship there. And Prashha, I would definitely love to invite you to one of my shows there.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And then last question, what's your favorite book?
Ooh, my favorite book. There's so many. The one that I'm currently reading that I really love is 10x is easier than 2x. I really like that one because it changes your thinking of how to quantum leap your growth is to really focus on the most important thing
Mm.
to grow. That's one of my current ones that I really like.
Excellent. I love it. Thank you so much for coming to the show, Diana, and sharing all your amazing, knowledge and story. And it's all so inspiring. I got to learn so much about you that I didn't have a chance to learn in all our exchanges so far. And it kind of well timed because tomorrow is my business's fifth year anniversary. And yeah, I'm really excited to celebrate it with you today.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank
Oh my
you.
goodness. What's been your biggest lesson, Prasha? Like 5 years, that's a big
Ah,
milestone.
yeah, it's just keep going. Keep doing what you love doing, and it all like evens out. It all averages out in the end. So like it's not like the lows are not as low as you think, the highs are not as high as you think. It's always an average. So I'm still learning, but yeah, following all the footsteps you guys have left behind. So getting there slowly.
Congratulations. 5 years is a milestone. Right?
Yeah,
Once you cross the
definitely.
5 year mark, like do you feel like this is your right path that you're on?
Yeah, absolutely. Because I gave myself 5 year. I do 5 year planning.
Yeah.
So I say 5 year. If we get to where I want to be, we're
Yeah.
on the right track, and we'll measure like that lagging indicator then. And I think we're very close. Well, December will tell, but I think we're a little bit better than we were when we were like 2 years old.
I'm celebrating you. I'm so proud of you. I just love following your journey and seeing
Thank
just how you loving like life and being a mom, an entrepreneur, and caring for your clients, just being so down to earth and having time to stay in touch with fellow coaches and paying it forward.
Just having fun. Yeah, if you're having fun, you can do everything like 100 times, right? Like I think we're all having a lot of fun, and just very blessed that get to do this work for a living. So yeah,
Totally.
as much as it sucks, but sometimes it sucks, but like it's so much fun when you sort of blend it with the right things, like meeting people, like speaking. I mean, I'm probably gonna come get your help because, like I've told you many times, I belong on stages and I want to get there soon.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. Like I want to raise this baby first and then have the next one.
Absolutely. I love it. You know what? I want to end the message here is do work that aligns you, that fulfills you, that fills your cup, right? I think that's what it
Mhm.
is. Like to whatever career or business, like for me, when I think about to be in business for 14 years is loving what I do. I love it. Like I'm always
Yeah.
counting my blessings, how grateful I am, and clients, like dream clients that get me so hyped up and
Wow.
excited.
Love it.
Right.
Excellent.
That's how you keep growing and evolving.
Yeah, there's some comments I wanted to share so that everyone who joined us live, you can read a little bit about what they had to share. Amela said, Amel, I think, she said, "What? I love this question. What do you want to be known for? It's such a powerful way to shift perspective and step outside of daily routines to truly think about the legacy we're creating. I often ask my clients this question because it forces them to reflect on what truly matters beyond short-term goals and to go beyond, go to, and to go even deeper. I also guide them through three powerful questions. What do you want to experience? What do you need to grow in order to live that experience? And how do you want to contribute? I love that. Thanks for
I love that.
sharing.
Yeah,
And
great.
then Marie said, yes, I went to an event and met 20 plus great people and now I'm going to host a tea party in Paris to keep in touch. I
Oh
love
my goodness, that
that.
sounds so great. Tea.
Oh, and then we had Lay saying development of a power list of 100 right connections to resonate with you is a great piece of advice. I love that. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us live, and thank you so much for contributing here. But thank you, Diana, for all your suggestions and advice. And yeah, you're so wonderful. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you so much.